Hey everybody, and welcome to Healthy Living. My guest today is Dr. Columbus Batiste. Dr. Batiste is the Chief of Cardiology at Kaiser Permanente in Riverside, California. Welcome, Dr. Batiste.
Well, hey, how are you?
I'm good. You look great, and I'm so happy to be interviewing you in the video format because I know when I used to do it on the audio format, we just never could connect. So you're good. You don't, like a lot of they say you have a face for radio. You have a face for video, so it's so nice to see what a healthy eater really can look like. So thank you.
That's why I love speaking with you because you always give me lots of compliments.
I swear you could have been a pro football player. I mean, and it's not just about looks. That's not why we eat healthy, but it's nice to know that when we eat our best, we can often look our best. So,
absolutely.
Right. So, Chief of Cardiology, that's pretty impressive. Kaiser is amazing because you guys are doing more to embrace the plant-based diet than anybody else. So I'm so thankful and proud that you are doing that where you work.
Absolutely. No, and it's what we have to do. You know, I mean, this is what our calling is supposed to be, about really impacting people with their lifestyles. And the organization, it provides an avenue for us to be able to really treat people at their root cause. Mm-hmm. If we so choose, we can actually take the time and really dig into why they're having the issues they're having and really try and act on that. So I love it, the perfect marriage with my opportunity to practice in the group.
Yeah.
So.
My grandfather was a general practitioner, and he graduated from medical school about 1920. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the field of cardiology didn't even exist a long time ago. Isn't it more of a relatively new field?
It is. Well, I mean, not until around 1917 did we have where heart disease actually surpassed influenza as #1 killer in the United States. So there really wasn't a great need, and that kind of mirrored that industrialization in our processed foods and our lifestyle and everything else like that. And it's taken off since then. We're the undefeated champions of killers worldwide at this point.
I'm sure you spend a lot of your days not only talking to patients, but doing procedures that are probably necessary, whatever it's angioplasty or stents or writing prescriptions. But how much of what you see could be prevented and reversed if people would adopt the dietary style that you and I embrace?
The honest truth is I really truly believe that in my realm, which is cardiovascular disease, that we're looking at probably 99%.
Oh my gosh.
If not more, could and should be prevented through lifestyle intervention.
Right.
Beyond the shadow of a doubt.
And then my next question is, well, why isn't it? You're doing your part, but we think about Dr. Kim Williams, I'm sure you're familiar with him. You probably met him, wonderful gentleman, past president of the American College of Cardiology, who says there's only two kinds of cardiologists, ones that are vegan and ones that haven't read the data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. And that number who haven't read the data is so large because we're not taught this in med school. We're not taught about nutrition. It's something that I was just speaking with a neurologist just yesterday, and she was saying, "Man, how do you learn about this stuff, or how you know?" And I said, the problem is the data is all there. You have to look for it and have a desire to think outside the box of the way in which you were trained. In other words, get out the matrix.
Right.
Get out the matrix.
How do we educate your colleagues? Because the thing is if everybody went plant-based, first of all, everybody's not going to do it because for some people they're just going to say, I don't want to, it's too hard, whatever. And so they'll still have jobs. So how do we get those that haven't read the data to read the data?
Yeah, I think just by the things that you do, the things that others are out there doing, like Scott Stowe, Kim Williams, that we're putting information that it's becoming mainstream. There was a great article inside of one of our major journals in cardiology that was put forth looking at controversies in nutritional therapy and really highlighting the importance of plant-based. They didn't call it out by name, but you could read through absolutely. And that was by Dean Ornish and by many other, Neil Bernard and so forth that were inside the authorship for that. So it was a great article, and I think that's a mainstay. I immediately sent that out to all of my interventional colleagues.
Nice.
I immediately sent that out to all of our cardiologists to make them aware of what was going on.
Do you have better luck or more success trying to convert your patients to this lifestyle or your colleagues?
It's about equal, to be honest with you, because my colleagues are patients. They're just not my own patients. So
I love it.
They carry the same biases that everyone on the outside does. You know, one of the main things, and I spent time with Esselstyn, who also was on that article, and great man and great guy. And the one difference I recognize in his practice and when he sees patients is that they seek him out. From my perspective, I'm constantly fishing. I'm casting a net with each patient, whether they want to see me or not, or don't want to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about nutrition. And I'll tell you the most rewarding thing, before I used to get all jazzed up when I would put a stent in and a heart attack was happening and I would get like these goosebumps. That faded away quickly. But now I get goosebumps whenever I can impact a patient's life and set them down the pathway towards wholeness and wellness and living and thriving as far as in life. So that's the reward now. But it's not 100%. I will probably estimate that I probably get like about 10 to 15% legitimately are embracing it wholly. There's probably another 15, 20% who begin to partially embrace it. And then, you know, and my thing is, if I just can tackle one person, one person's all I'm trying to get at. And because that changes them, that changes their family, that changes their friends, and many others. So it's important to do each and every patient.
So how do you operate? So, for example, if they're on the table and you're putting in their stent, you say, by the way, this could have been prevented.
No, you know what? When I consent them, and Furman brings this out great, McDougall brings this out great, which is that true informed consent means I let every patient know about the options of therapy. And so I clearly tell them up front, I'm like, you know, listen, we can tackle this. I'm not going to save your life by doing a stent. I'm not going to prevent a heart attack. But all I can do is maybe help you feel better a little bit sooner. Maybe. If we can accomplish that goal by just a simple lifestyle change, by a slow progression and moving towards a whole food plant-based diet, you can get those benefits and many more. And I'll tell you, I've had patients say, that's it. I mean, one guy I'll never forget. You know, I brought him in. He had classic symptoms with his wife. He came in, big guy, muscular. He had a stent many years ago, was having classic symptoms of chest and throat discomfort. I said, you know what? We need to do an angiogram on you. I did an angiogram, and he had a blockage in a location that it didn't warrant bypass surgery, and it certainly didn't warrant absolutely stent, but it was 99% blocked. And so I said, you know, we're going to pause. I said, let's stop and I took him off the table and I brought his wife back. We had a conversation. I said, listen, I can do this high risk procedure. I've done them successfully before, or we can treat this effectively and get at the heart of the problem. He said, Doc, I'm all in. I gave him information. I gave him a little green sheet that in part includes some of your information on it. I give him your website too as well. And we go through a sequence. I saw that patient back in my office within 1 month. Actually, it was 2 months. I saw him back. In that time period, his blood pressure dropped 25 points. His cholesterol had already come down. He was symptom-free, exercising on the elliptical and lifting weights for over an hour with just a change in his nutrition. So, I mean, there's so much power and so many examples. This is no longer is it a thing of saying, oh, okay, you know, this is rare. Right. This is the expected outcome when people engage inside of it.
Absolutely. So. You know, one of my questions was going to be, when are you going to write a book already? And I just figured out the title because you said it. It can be called The Heart of the Problem or The Heart of the Matter. So because you need to, just if nothing else, about these case studies that you have been talking about.
Well, you know, that's I appreciate that. And that's a great point. You know, and I'll be honest. I mean, the things that you add when you wrote your book, I think were valuable. I think the things that have been put out there have been valued. And so one of the things that I've sat and I thought is, what additional value am I adding to the books that are out there, the literature that's out there? You know, and so I do have some ideas. I am actually contemplating a different approach towards the plant-based. There's a huge segment. You know, there's what, 320 million people in the United States? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how many are vegan or plant-based, but there's magnitudes of individuals who've never heard of you, heard of me, heard of anyone out there, have never heard that there is power in food. Right. And so there's always an avenue for people to be reached. And so I definitely want to do my part to reach people because there's a greater good that we need to get ourselves involved in. And
I think as a clinician, there's all the plant-based doctors are wonderful, but not very many of them are treating patients on a daily basis and doing the procedures like you are. So I think your voice is one that needs to be heard in this matter, and you're in an area where, you're serving a different type of clientele as well. And that would not get this message if you weren't able to deliver it. Do you think that, I don't know what other cardiologists do, but do you think that the average patient, when they come to you, don't even know that food is an option? Like, do they really come that uninformed, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's not even a question of if I'm suspicious of it. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, everyone, it's kind of like the old adage for like becoming rich or saving money. It's like, oh, I know, just spend less than I earn. They say, oh, I'll just eat a little bit less of bad things, whatever else. But they don't have an idea, a concept of how to approach it at all. And so when I talk to them immediately, I engage them as far as in the process and what their lifestyle is like, what their goals are, and how we can move. And then I encourage them. I let them know it's not all or none. It's not like, okay, well, unless I'm 100%, I won't get any benefit. Right. No, there's clear evidence from Loma Evidence Health Study to show that there is gradations and there's still improvements as long as you get on the road. So, I think that's why it's so important to continue to grind and continue to put it out there, that message out there for every patient, because they don't know there's power. When I sit there and I talk with those folks and they tell me, they're like, hey, doc, how come no one ever told me this before?
That's the thing. How come? I had a lady that was sent to me by, I believe it was Dr. McDougall, who had like 3 bypass operations, or maybe she was sent by Dr. Esselstyn, and she was in tears when she found this information. She goes, why didn't anyone tell? It should be a crime not to tell people that there's an option before you cut their chest open.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you another example. So I was sitting there with, I take care of my colleagues' patients. So they're not all my patients, but I still give them all the message. And so I saw this gentleman, and I did his angiogram, and he had horrific disease. But I talked to him about the plant-based nutrition and how he wasn't in the throes of a heart attack, so he could choose that as an option. I'm walking in one day, and I see the surgeon. And he was like, hey, Columbus. I was like, hey, Dan, how you doing? And he said, I saw your patient. I was like, who's that? He was like, oh, such and such, and, obese guy, truck driver, poor nutrition, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, the whole works, smoking. Well, he said he got on your diet, which is always funny because they call it my diet.
That's fine.
In the hospital.
That's
right?
Great.
And so he said, the guy's doing great. He's lost over 30 pounds. He's feeling really well and everything like that. And so I was like, so what happened? Did you send him home? He said, no, I still operate on him. I told him he still needed it. I was like, why?
That's terrible.
And we had the conversation, and the guy was doing well. He was like, but I just wanted to tell you, if you keep it up like that, you're going to put me out of business. And I said, yeah, myself too, but that's going to be a great thing. That's what we need to do, and that's what we're here for.
That is almost the story. Hopefully he won't be watching this, because that is almost criminal. It is criminal to do that,
Yeah,
sad.
there has to be a shift away in this. Here's the thing. The community standard, which is what a lot of physicians, that rings home true if they're listening out there, is to say, what's the community standard? And when we say the community standard is do X, Y, and Z, the community standard needs to be aggressive lifestyle modification first and foremost. Mm-hmm. That needs to be the community standard for treatment of chronic disease burden. And I think that shift, we're moving, but not moving anywhere near fast enough.
Right. Well, I know that Kaiser has done some medical research articles that have been published, and I know that because I have friends that work there, not just as physicians, but in other jobs, that say that they're promoting plant-based diets to their patients for diabetes. But are they doing it just in general? Because heart disease would be, to me, obvious that would be. I mean, I know that you, Dr. Batiste, are, but what about just Kaiser in general?
So as an organization, no, they don't prescribe to one particular avenue. And there's a lot of reasons that go into that. And I certainly, whenever I kind of appear or I give talks, it's never on behalf of them. But they are definitely in promotion of aggressive lifestyle modification. And many of our leaders are actually involved in plant-based nutrition for their own individual lives. So there is that sense out there, and there is that direction in movement. I'll tell you, within our own department, I've actually hired on a dietitian. So a person can walk from my office and go right and see a dietitian almost immediately.
Great.
We do a cooking class once a month on top of my mini Esselstyn lecture style that I give. This is my pro bono type of give back at that time for those things. And so we do my mini Esselstyn, we do our cooking class, and we're about to kind of get into the realm of a little bit more social media with actual video cooking for a lot of the patients. They can tap in and check out the 5-minute on how to prepare something quick and easy.
That's
That's nutritious, because they can understand the why, but your role in delivering the how is the most important.
It really is, because one of the reasons I created Healthy Tastes of LA, which has since changed to more of your traditional just lectures, is that the idea is that the science is great, but you can't eat the science, and people really need to see the practical. I wish we lived closer, because I would love to do cooking demos for your patients.
I know.
That would be so fun. I think your first name is Columbus, which is an unusual name. It's a great name, but I think about, Columbus is credited with discovering America. I think it was named after Amerigo Vespucci, and it's sort of like you are kind of the one that's going to be responsible for bringing, discovering the benefit of the plant-based diet for your organization, sort of. So I'm just thinking, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's that it's ironic and it is weird. My name is kind of a little definitely unique and distinctive and so forth. But there's so much opportunity. There's so much fertile soil within our organization in order to kind of promote the plant-based. One of the things that we're doing too as well is I'm actually trying to virtualize Ornish's program essentially, and so we're doing aggressive communication with cardiac rehab, intense cardiac rehab along the lines of Pritikin, along the lines of Ornish, and really trying to promote not only exercise, stress reduction, but most importantly, I'm putting my thumbprint on the plant-based nutrition for the nutritional goals as far as with the organization, or at least at Riverside, and we'll see what happens organizationally.
Right. Well, if you're the chief of cardiology, can't you just tell all the other cardiologists that they got to do it? I mean, you're the chief.
No, I wish it worked like that. I represent them, but I'll tell you what, when I first started out, I was scared. We didn't have the Kim Williams out there who gave credence that this is a valued approach. All we had, there wasn't a ton of just readily available data. And so when I stepped out, I kind of stepped out on faith in that, I felt this was the thing that had to be done. And it was right. I felt it was right. I felt that had a physician kind of told my father, my wife's father, many patients, that things would be different for a lot of families. And so when I did that, I wasn't sure what my colleagues were going to say about me. I really wasn't. But fast forward now 8 years of having been doing this, they embrace it. I've had individuals who've eaten burgers while Gregor has come and given a talk, just kind of looking, right? Just being purposeful. They've now come to me and they've said, you know what, Columbus, look, patients ask me about nutrition. I'll say, well, Dr. Batiste would say, look at this green sheet and that you should eat mostly plants and eat all plants. He said, so here you go. Here's some information that he does. Here's his class if you want to know more. So the pendulum has swung from when they were a little bit standoffish and they were apprehensive. I had one physician come to the cath lab, and extremely intelligent man, extremely intelligent. And he was nearly in tears. And he said, I know I'm under so much stress. And he said, I know I have this stuff going on. I have a family history, and I haven't been against what you've been saying, but, I haven't been supportive either. And I'll tell you, Columbus, I'll read whatever you give me. I'll do whatever you say or whatever else. You want to make it through this. Well, he fortunately made it through it. And he went on, he lost weight. He's been doing much better, and he's been embracing as far as improved nutrition. I don't know if he's 100%. I don't beat him down, but he's verbally told individuals that, hey, you know what? I'm on Columbus's diet.
Nice.
I said, it's not my diet. I didn't.
Well, hey, that's a great book, The Columbus Diet. If they're calling it, that's fantastic. That is great. Have you ever had like a Dean Ornish or Dr. Esselstyn or a Kim Williams come speak to your colleagues?
Esselstyn, I don't know Ornish personally. I've met him. I know Esselstyn, and he's a great guy, very, very helpful, and he's always expressed a willingness to help out whenever. And that's my next one. We've had Gregor come. We've had Hans Deal come out too as well. And that's next in my line with try and coordinate something for Esselstyn to come. I would want to make it large,
right?
Because he's deserving of that stature.
Sure.
And that's been the hardest thing of trying to bring in one of these luminaries in trying to make it large and collaborative between multiple centers there.
Good.
But that's definitely next in my horizon, along with yourself.
Oh, well,
That's the reason why I haven't had you come out yet.
Thank you. I don't need a large group. I just need a ride there because driving to you is the most stressful part. I so wish you lived closer. So what made you want to become a physician in general and a cardiologist in particular?
Oh, to be honest with you, my dad kind of told me I had three options: a lawyer, a doctor, or a business person. I love the sciences. And the heart made sense.
Yeah.
It's easy. There's four chambers. There's three major arteries. That's seven. We can all remember 7 digits, which is why our telephone number is 7 and our license plate.
So
right?
That's hilarious. I love that answer. So you were kind of forced into. Any other doctors in your family, or just?
I'm the only one.
Wow.
I'm the only one. But I love it. I love what I do. I believe that it was what I was meant to do. I believe that this avenue, as far as along the lines of impacting individuals with their life, is even more important. I think that that's the direction and pathway I was meant to walk on. And where it leads fully, of course I don't know, but I know that that's what I'm intended to do. There's so much stress. One of the things that I've seen so much here recently, I'll tell you, there's a condition called the broken heart syndrome.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because you talked about it in your lecture, that people actually can die of a broken heart even if they're eating well.
Absolutely. So this stress is so powerful. We've all heard of it. A little old couple and the wife or husband dies and the spouse dies within a matter of a month. They say it's from a broken heart. That is a true phenomenon. And when I was in training, I didn't see much of it. It seems rampant now. And what ends up happening is that you have this acute stressor that causes the heart to become dysfunctional, no longer squeezes well, and the blood work becomes abnormal, and it looks like a heart attack, but the arteries are fine.
Wow.
And so there's more and more evidence out there of the role of stress, and we're looking at upwards of 5-fold risk of heart disease as a result of stress. And most people think of stress in terms of emotional stress, and from finances or work or family or whatever it may be. But I believe there is another component in an angle to plant-based, which is nutritional stress that's out there. And individuals have no idea about the role of the foods they're putting in their body that propagate the stress internally that leads to oxidative stress. From just like the standard American diet, the processed foods, the animal products being shown in some small studies to increase your salivary cortisol, the stress hormone, right? That stress hormone, once it gets going, it causes your blood pressure to rise. It causes your heart rate to speed up. It causes you to appear like you're in a diabetic state. And then it also can sit there and make you, as far as a little bit psychotic at times. So those things then now lead you towards developing cardiovascular disease when it's unrelenting. But rather, when you replace the foods, these processed and animal foods, with the plant-rich foods that in similar studies have been shown to decrease salivary cortisol levels, that have been shown to as well to counteract oxidative stress by all your antioxidants, that now you're getting the benefits. You're no longer having this advanced glycated end products which age you. You brought up that this lifestyle, it helps you glow like you're glowing right now. It helps you look radiant and young and youthful.
It does.
And
I'm almost 60. I am almost 60. I've been doing this for 40 years. And I'm wearing a little makeup, but even when I'm not, people say, "Oh my God, your skin's so beautiful. What do you use?" And I'm like, "Vegetables, really."
That's wonderful. And that's truly it, but it's evidence because of the fact that our bodies are not going through all the advanced glycated end products from the foods that we're eating. We're not having all the oxidative stress that we know just ravishes the apples and vegetables and everything that happens on the inside. That Maillarding happens, that browning effect happens on the inside, and it's destroying our bodies. And we wonder why we're fatigued, why we're so irritable. We wonder why is it that I'm arthritic? Why is it that I'm unable to do the things that I'm doing? And part of it, a large component, is our nutritional stress. We have to counteract that nutritional stress with resiliency and engage in nutritional resiliency through the foods that we eat and we embrace.
Yeah, I love that word resiliency because it's like when Dr. Esselstyn talks about becoming bulletproof against heart disease. You really can be, you know.
Absolutely.
I love that you're so passionate. Is this how you talk to your patients? Because I've never had a doctor like be that passionate about anything with me. I mean, I wish you were. I mean, I don't really need a cardiologist, but if I did, I would. And by the way, I know that you have to have Kaiser to see a Kaiser doctor, but if somebody watching this is living in Southern California and belongs to Kaiser, could they ostensibly see you?
Absolutely, they could. You know, I'll be honest, I'm not in clinic as much as what I would like to in order to express things and impact individuals, but you absolutely can. And the cool part is that we've now adopted more virtual visits, so video. So even if someone, let's say that out in your neck of the woods, you say, well, you know what, I want to have a consultation with Dr. Batiste.
Wow.
Yeah, you could set something up and do a video conferencing.
That's amazing.
Have a video visit. Obviously, I'm not examining you, but we can go through a video visit and go through the whole entire gamut that's there through a simple referral. So there's a lot of strides that are being made in order to kind of accommodate individuals wherever they are.
That's fantastic. So you were in the film, the wonderful film, Eating You Alive, and I swear you had more people at the premiere than anyone else. So tell us a little bit what that was like, first of all, being in a movie and then having so many friends and family in the audience to support you.
Well, I mean, it was great, and it's, you know, it was very nice for the producers to reach out to me, and it was last minute. They were virtually done with the film, I think, by the time they reached out to me. But it was nice to get the message out there that's already being placed out there, and to have a face. You know, there's a large community. I mean, I used to be apprehensive of kind of touching on the whole ethnic aspect of things, but the reality of it is there's a large community of African Americans, of Hispanics, Latinos out there who wonder, well, that's not our food. There's no one I know like that who's eating like that.
Yeah.
And so it's important, I believe, and that's one of the reasons I'm not like someone who's seeking to be out there in public, but I think it's important. I believe so much in this message that it's important that if my face, if my presence can help someone realize that, well, oh man, that guy's doing it. Okay, well, I guess maybe so. Yeah, he understands how I cook. He understands the foods in the neighborhood where I'm at and the limitations and so forth. Well, you know what? I'll try it. I'll try it because you know what? And I'll try it. And so that was great. And my family and friends they're my anchor. They're my support. They always have been. They always will be. So they are extremely supportive of any venture, and I loved it from the standpoint that even some of my siblings who, you know, the world would say they eat well, but they haven't been fully plant-based the way in which I like. They actually said, you know what, Columbus, don't say anything. I don't want to hear anything from you, but we're gonna go plant-based for a little. We're gonna go plant-based, you know. And I've had friends, and one of the greatest things ever. I'll tell you this. So there was a little challenge in the cath lab, and so there was one group, and they said, oh, $200, and you take these vitamins and pills and such and such. And I said, you're doing what? I said, I'll coach anyone who wants me. I'll coach them. So I took a group of 3 individuals, and we just coached them up. One guy's kidney function improved. His skin, his lost weight. Another guy, his blood sugar improved, his cholesterol, and he's lost over 30-some-odd pounds, and he's still going strong after 3 months. The other young lady, she's lost weight. Her family is embracing it. They're loving it. They're loving it. And so that power and influence of the movie, I believe people are impacted by stories. They're impacted by stories, and they're impacted by visual entertainment. And so I think that movies like Eating You Alive or Forks Over Knives, or there's numerous, Cowspiracy, all those films, Plant Pure Nation, are powerful just for that very fact of impacting people. So I loved it, and I was appreciative of the producers for allowing me to kind of sit in.
Yeah, and I thought you were great in it. And you know what you said about people receiving the message better from people that are like them, that look like them, or understand their needs. I think that's so true, and that's why I love that there's so many plant-based athletes now, because I can only reach the people that, you know, I'm female, I'm, you know, almost 60. I'm probably not going to reach the 20-year-old girls or, you know, the athletes, but that's why we're all so necessary, because there are people that are going to look at us and say, well, like you said, well, he's like me, he looks like me, he eats like me, and it's so important, and, you know, to be who you are, so that the people that are like you or that resonate with you will get the message from you. You know, I know when both of my brothers are doctors, and I remember going to their medical school, I think both of their medical school graduations, and you actually take that Hippocratic oath, right? You know,
Yeah.
I swear by Apollo the physician. And this guy said a long time ago, let food be thy medicine. We've come so far from that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's become a business, number one. The industrialization as far as a food, it's money, it's financial, the economics of it, the role government plays in it. It's so convoluted that it's easy to kind of cast that blame on the individual person. And at the end of the day, it's each and every person's responsibility to take ownership for their life and their health, right? But we do know that when you're just confronted with foods where junk food is less expensive than good food, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. There's an inherent problem in our system when foods that are disease promoting and forming are more cost efficient for families than foods that are health promoting. That's a major problem. And so I think that industrialization, I think that the scientific, because now when you marry in, right, the business aspect, which means how can I get more people to come back? And just like the great book, I always kind of forget the exact sequence of the title, but Fat, Salt, Sugar.
Sugar, Fat, and Salt, How the Food Giants Hooked Us by Michael Moss.
Yes. Great book. And gives you that behind-the-scenes insight into how the calibration of the exact components of sugar and salt and fat that makes us addictive and wanting to come back over and over and over again. It's almost like a drug dealer. It's just like a drug dealer. What is the exact amount that will keep someone from dying from this drug, but yet keeping them coming back over and over and over again?
I couldn't agree with you more. This is my passion, is food addiction. And you're right, because even people that can afford to eat the healthy food often don't because of the addictive nature of the other foods.
Yes.
So we can't. Yeah, absolutely. That's unbelievable. You know, when going back to the colleague that still operated on the man, even though he was getting better on the Columbus diet, do you think he even said to the guy that this is not a fix? Like, do you think that the average patient that gets a stent or angioplasty or bypass is even told that this is basically a Band-Aid, and that if they don't change their diet and lifestyle, they're going to be back?
Well, let me start by this. Have you ever watched the movie The Matrix?
It was so confusing, but yes.
Yeah, it was for me too.
Yeah.
But the thing in that was the fact that people were living in a society that they had no idea what was going on, and they were doing what they were the norm for them. And so I think the issue with physicians is the fact that we've been doing something and trained in Western medicine, a particular style, that the docs are scared that what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong and this patient goes out and they have a heart attack and everyone blames me? What if I'm wrong and this patient dies and the patient doesn't continue on and they die suddenly, and then now I'm up for a lawsuit? And so the docs are concerned on the other end. So not only are you dealing with the fact that they're kind of maybe leaning towards accepting that there's truth and there's power in food and lifestyle, but on the other hand, they're still taking in the antiquated 1960s and 50s perspective that patients will never stop smoking, so I won't tell them about it. And then on top of it, you're adding to the fact that they're scared that what if I'm wrong? If the patient doesn't eat like that, or even if the patient does and they have a major event. And I think that's until they get to the point, and I can tell you that because in all honesty, it took me a while. It took me a moment or two to really say, you know what? I know this is the right thing to do, and I'm confident because our literature supports it. It's just not interpreted or read that way on a consistent basis at all. You know, we still look at the pills and we look at the mechanical interventions as opposed to the lifestyle. So I don't blame them. I'm concerned, and I feel that there is a need and there's more of an importance in my role in trying to educate. That's what I see as the issue. And it's a failure on the part of individuals like myself and others who have that MD and those who don't to really inform our colleagues about the importance from a scientific standpoint. So, you know, when I have the opportunity coming up to speak at City of Hope next couple of weeks, actually, and they're putting on one of their first nutritional conferences, and I was asked to speak there, I'm speaking to these physicians who are engaging as far as in science. And I'm having to to structure my talk around the science of nutrition. But the reality of it is there's a great analogy that was done, which is just how many trials do you guess there are for parachutes? Showing that parachutes are effective in saving lives.
Well, there's no trials, right?
There's no trials.
Yeah.
And we know, so we know that, okay, if we jump out of a plane, that you're gonna die. Well, there's some cases of people who survive. There's some cases of people who've worn a parachute and it's misfired and they've died. So if I were to critique all that, I might say, well, parachutes are not of value, and we should perform a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial.
Oh yeah, with half the people. That's I love it.
And that would be
insane.
Be idiocy.
Yeah,
that would be idiocy to do that. And so, of course, we're not going to do that. And that's the same thing when it comes to nutrition. We'll never be able to structure adequate research that's going to fulfill all the concerns of scientists and physicians out there who want to be critical. But you know it. You know it when you see it, the fact that this is our parachute. Yeah. Whole food plant-based nutrition augmented by our activity, by our decrease in our sleep and things of that nature, our water intake is our parachute towards an improved, healthful life. And so it's important that I do my role so in that way doctors out there can implement the appropriate treatment for patients and perform true informed consent.
Right. Or at least, like you say, at least tell
consent.
them, because if a patient doesn't want to do it, it's not, they don't have to do it. But to just say, well, they're not going to do it, so I'm not going to tell them, that to me is a cop-out, and it's like you say, it's criminal. Have you always eaten this way?
So I have not always eaten this way. I've been vegetarian since I was a little boy.
Okay.
And I say that from the standpoint of I had a piece of meat that made me sick and I was done with it. Then I still had cheese, even though it made me have, the things that happens to the vast majority of individuals worldwide with our lactose and so forth. And it wasn't until really about 10 years ago that I really said that was it. Through several kind of personal life events with family and so forth, and began the process of researching and reaching out, and it was shortly after that we met. And
That's
I
right.
came to your house.
You came to my cooking class with your mother, who, by the way, I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate to say her age, but I'm guessing she has to be at least 70.
She's 82.
She doesn't even look. The only reason I'm guessing 7, I mean, she looks maybe 50, between 50 and 60, and I'm guessing that she eats this way or primarily this way because she looks absolutely amazing. And I'm guessing she probably doesn't have really any health concerns.
She doesn't. She doesn't have, I mean, outside of some arthritis from a fall on her back a while back, but she doesn't have any chronic disease burdens at all, and she gets regular checkups.
I think she needs to go out and start speaking to people, because that is just, because again, she'll reach a different segment than you'll be able to reach when they see that somebody in their 80s can look like they're between 50 and 60 and be so vibrant without medication and without, a walker or a wheelchair or hearing aids. I mean, maybe I'll interview her next.
Yeah, no,
and ask her, why'd you name your son Columbus?
Well, my dad. That was the easy answer. Was my dad?
Yeah. No, I really like your name. It's a cool name, but like, what's the nickname for Columbus? There is none, right?
There is none. Exactly.
Really can't call you Bus. Now, it's interesting. So, my physician, my personal internal medicine physician, is plant-based. His name is Dr. Roy Artal at Cedars, and we recently had a powwow with the very local doctors about getting this message out, and he was saying how he'll have patients come in and he'll say, how are you? Fine. Do you have any diseases? No. Are you on any medication? And they'll be on like 7 medications, like for cholesterol lowering, triglyceride lowering, blood pressure lowering, but because their numbers are, quote, normal, they think they're fine. Can you address that a little bit about how these medications are really not doing what we think they're doing? Because they're not reversing the disease. They're, it's like Dr. Campbell talks about. It's like what we're doing is we're mopping the floor continually without ever turning the water off. So I'm sure that at times you have to prescribe these medications, and I know that, like, I believe it's, Lipitor, the #1 most prescribed drug in the world. But could you just explain to people how just because your number is acceptable doesn't mean that you're free of these diseases?
Well, I mean, no, that's a great point and great question. I mean, the easiest low-hanging fruit to address this is in terms of cholesterol. You brought up Lipitor or any of the cholesterol-lowering medications. And so in some studies, they have been shown to be relatively efficacious. But here's the issue. what we know beyond a shadow of a doubt is the fact that most individuals who go in and who have heart attacks have normal normal cholesterol levels. They may be on the medications. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt. We're not treating the root cause. We're not treating the root cause of the problem, and we're seeing still recurrent strokes. We're seeing recurrent heart attacks that are happening inside these patients. We're seeing studies for diabetics too as well. We see that despite using medications, that we still didn't prevent cardiovascular events. That tells you right there, there's not power in the medications. That's sweeping up the floor, but you're not stopping the inflow of dust and everything else. You're picking up the apples or leaves, but the tree is still overhanging. You haven't taken care of the issue. And so that becomes extremely important in addressing this, is that it is the lifestyle and the lifestyle first. The other thing is the fact that I believe, and there's some studies that have alluded to this, is the fact that you have a psychological component. You know, it's like, let me have an insulin chaser to go with the milkshake and go with the burger and fries, right? I'm gonna go ahead and just take my medication to bring my blood sugar down. Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to take my blood pressure pills and I'm going to have as much processed foods with heavy in salt and processed meats as I want to have because I'll pop my pills. I take my pills regularly. Right? And how many people do I see on a regular basis, daily or for procedures, who have an arm list of medications that they've been taking faithfully? A lot. That is not the solution. And so if lifestyle, which we know, no, there's no if to it, when lifestyle is embraced, that now not only can your numbers decrease, but we know that events, which is what people really care about. I don't want to have another heart attack. I don't want to be a ward of the hospital and live in the hospital seeing a different doctor every so often rounding on me. And so those things can truly be impacted. And I wish we could have commercials the same way they have all these ask your doctor about such and such medication and list out all the side effects. And we list the side effects saying improved energy, clarity of skin, improved eyesight. You know what you're going to, all these side effects from having and engaging in the plant-based nutrition lifestyle.
If the plant-based diet was a pill, we'd all be millionaires, right? I mean,
absolutely.
That's the other thing. I think that, I don't want to make a judgment is that these medicines shouldn't have been invented, but it makes, if they weren't there, then people would actually have to do something to get well. They would actually have to take responsibility for their own behavior, and then they could get well, but it's almost like it's a crutch, but it's not. It's not even a good crutch because, like you say, I know people just like you talked about that are diabetic and waiting to go on dialysis, but they'll eat what they want because they'll just inject more insulin, Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a great point. And, I think the perfect example of that, you look at the life of like Pritikin, it was taken out of necessity. I mean, you think about his journey, it springboarded because there was an absence of treatments that were standard, and his knowledge and awareness from a research standpoint of like the epidemiology of decreasing heart disease. Then when you look too as well, you look at individuals like President Eisenhower. He had this major heart attack around the same time Pritikin was diagnosed with coronary disease, but there were no treatments, no great treatments. And enter in his doc who told him to do what? Change your diet, quit smoking, and get moving faster. It was the birthplace of cardiac rehab that Pritikin progressed and Ornish progressed and intensified to as well. And so really there was power and it showed. And part of that was, you're right, there wasn't the crutch. It's the same as like my kids. My kids, when I was a kid, I went outside and played. I wanted to play outside. I wanted to play board games. There's so many options for them. The computer, their phone, their iPad, the too many options take them away from things that are helpful for them.
Right.
And same thing, I think, in terms of our wellness as adults. These opportunities here that we see as quick fixes in terms of pills and procedures make it easy to do the wrong thing.
Right. And we are so in line. I was thinking the same thing when you talked about your kids, because I think that sometimes these things that were invented to make our lives better actually make our lives worse, because now instead of going outside and play, kids will play a video game and get no exercise. So exactly right. Oh boy. I have read, I might have the statistics wrong, that often the first sign of heart disease is death. I mean, did people, like they think that they don't have it and then boom, they're dead. Can you talk a little bit about that and how people can even know what the symptoms of a heart attack or a stroke are? Because, I mean, I know what they are in relation to the people that I know that have had them and told me, but I just assume that I'm never going to get it. So I think that would be useful to tell people at least what to look for, especially if they're not going to make any dietary and lifestyle changes.
That's a great point. I love telling people, informing people, educating them. We know 64% of women who die of sudden death, their first symptom was that of sudden death. 50% of men who die, their first symptom is sudden death. Never one inkling of angina or chest pain. We know that when we have like these archaeologist physicians, they're called pathologists, right? And so they go in, they kind of uncover and investigate and dig and everything. And what they find is, they look at the arteries on individuals who died suddenly, there's layers upon layers of healed heart attacks, where people have had these heart attacks that have undoubtedly been silent, that they haven't known, that have healed until they finally have one that ends their life. So when we marry that concept, that knowledge base, with the fact that heart disease actually begins before the age of 10 and progresses throughout life, and we know that these things are there, that means that you're walking around and you should be engaging in prevention, intervention right now. We should be treating you as if you have heart disease. Now, for those few fortunate individuals who've had pain, they've had the warning signals of that pressure, that tightness along their chest. If you're a classic man and you reach there. But for women, it can be what? It could be your back is bothering you.
Wow.
It could be that you're a little bit fatigued and tired. It could be that you're nauseated, that you're a little dizzy. Who hasn't had that? How do you know in that moment that those symptoms aren't representative of something from your heart? Now, here's the thing.
You've gone away. Oh, there you are. Whew.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Whew.
Okay.
Perfect. I got worried there for a minute.
Yeah, no, sorry about that.
No worries.
My phone. Anyway.
No worries.
The power. You have to hook into the power, like you have to hook into the nutrition to get your power.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are like really truly the main components as far as those symptoms that a person can have and can develop that can lead them towards having a bad outcome. And when their first event, they may misread their warning signal, which is that of chest discomfort or whatever it may be, shortness of breath. And then they go on about life until they have a final event that's a final event.
Yeah. And
don't have an opportunity to make a change.
Is that why they call it the silent killer? Because sometimes...
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a say about a month ago. I'm sorry, it was about 6 months ago that showed that most Americans there's increasing numbers of individuals who are having silent heart attacks. Whereas before it was thought that was just for diabetics, no longer. It's for most individuals.
So a lot of times there's really not even pain associated with it. And because usually pain is a great motivator for getting people to go see a doctor or go to the emergency room. So sometimes you're saying it just feels like other symptoms that they may have and be almost kind of vague.
No, absolutely. And that's the problem. That's the problem with diabetes. That's the problem with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's no symptoms.
Right.
So the reason and you know this, and you can expound on this more, is what gets people motivated. I always tell people I work with, I don't care about your weight. I don't care about your weight. I care about what you're putting in your body. Mm-hmm. That's what I care about. But I realize people need to see that reward, that what they're doing is paying dividends. Mm-hmm. And so they can't feel that their blood pressure is improving or their cholesterol or that their arteries are stabilizing and all these other features. All they can go by is just the weight for that positive feedback. And that's good and it's bad. And I think it impedes people in their ability to move forward for a state of health for just that reason. I mean, even think about myself. I get that feedback because I see people every day that are suffering. And it's like, I don't want to suffer like that. And they need something to help give them a lifeline out of it.
Wow. So what are the symptoms of a stroke? And what should we look for in ourselves or somebody else that might be having one?
So stroke is equally important. And so what happens with a stroke a lot of times is the impact of a person may go ahead and they all of a sudden can lose their speech. Mm-hmm. They may have slurred speech. They may have numbness inside of a hand or tingling that's really impactful on them. That they have to it causes them to stop and freeze in what they're doing. And those things may go away after a few seconds or minutes and then return or not return. So we oftentimes think of stroke as just a massive side of the face or body becomes limp. But you can have these transient episodes that are like warning shots and letting you know what's out there. And once again, that process is the same. And that's the key thing, is that when you look at strokes or you look at any of those types of events, what we know about a stroke is the fact that the stroke is the same vascular system as the heart. It's the same phenomenon. It just occurs in the brain. That's the same that occurs in the legs, or can occur as far as inside sexual organs too as well. When that vascular area becomes impeded, then all of a sudden disaster starts to arise.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the penis, the sexual organs, because I find that that's a really great way to enroll men, even in the possibility of eating this way. I just spoke at the LA Veg Fest on Sunday and moderated a panel with Dr. Barnard, and a man said to me afterwards, he goes, "Is that really what you said is true?" Men, and maybe women too, don't realize, like Dr. Terry Mason says, that heart disease often starts in the penis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we know, studies are clear, about 40% of men who have impotence also have coronary artery disease. That's significant.
Right.
You know? And here's the scary part when it comes to coronary artery disease and strokes. First of all, it's like your pipe in your home. So when you get that green corrosion, that's not even have to call the plumber. But you know there's some plaquing that's there. Mm-hmm. Same thing occurs in your heart. Now, most people think that heart attacks are going to occur when the blockages are 70, 80, 90%. They say, whoa, that was a heart attack waiting to happen. No, not really. Mm-hmm. We know most heart attacks happen from areas of blockages that are 10, 20, 30, wow. 40, 50%. That would never show up by a stress test. That would never result in symptoms. But those are areas that are vulnerable.
That is so important. What you just said is so important. That probably explains why the news person, Tim Russert, was able to have a stress test, pass it, and then drop dead very soon thereafter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And his cholesterol level was reportedly normal as well. And so those things become important really from a standpoint, I don't even like to use the word prevention anymore. I like to use the word intervention. Everyone needs to be intervened on. So I embrace my role as an interventional cardiologist, and I tell people, I am truly an interventional cardiologist. I'm just trying to intervene on you before I have to intervene in the cath lab.
Right. Oh, I love it.
Because everyone needs it if we know disease starts at such an early onset. And most heart attacks can happen from areas that won't show up. So if I do a calcium CT scan to just check what your coronary calcium score is, okay. So if I tell you that it's low, now you're going to go out and eat burgers and fries?
Right.
No, you still need to eat healthy. If it's high, now what? So now I go and I put you on a treadmill and you do fine and you take pills and now you're scared and you need to eat healthy? Let's do the right thing, irrespective. The test doesn't determine what we need to do.
Right.
Know your risk. Know your risk is that you're alive. When you're alive, you want to stay alive.
Right. Well, because like you say, it's what we're eating is, and our lifestyle is so much more important than those numbers. Because I hear people all the time say, well, I'm doing everything right, but my number is still this. And I know that I've heard the other plant-based doctors say it's not the number, it's the diet. It's like, so if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet without oil, you know, that's more important than what this number is.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I mean, your body's going to produce certain things, and we don't have enough large scale. And I think what's going to need to happen is as we build more and more physicians in the queue under the auspices of the Furmans and Ornishes, as well as with the Bernards out there, and there's increasing pools of doctors, that we pool our patient care experiences together. And we have power in that number that we can track and see what these individuals are doing who report at being adherent to this whole food plant-based lifestyle, you know. And we look at those who engage in whole food plant-based as well as with being active, walking, standing, moving around, or that neat non-exercise activity thermogenesis, not just about kind of running in place, but just standing and moving. Right. And those individuals who get their sleep and stress reduction.
Yep. So we briefly mentioned smoking. Are people smoking anymore? I mean, I don't really know anybody personally that does, because that's a huge risk factor for heart disease. And so, I mean, I would imagine that even if somebody's not going to eat healthy, that's got to stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, there's still individuals out there who still smoke.
Hard to believe, right?
And they think it's cool. And now they've moved over to this new vapor business.
That's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So either that or they're doing cigars. And so there's a lot out there who are still engaging, and they think that, well, I only do it a little bit of time, and so a small portion, and so I'm going to be okay. And they're playing Russian roulette with their lives.
Yeah. So vaping is even bad for heart disease too.
Oh, it's absolutely.
It's good to know. Good to know because it's becoming very popular. Yeah.
So it's extremely popular. And the thing is, here's my rule of thumb. If you have to ask if this is okay or if it's maybe good, it's probably not.
Right? Exactly.
So
exactly.
I mean, because you don't ask if an apple's good for you. You don't ask if water is good for you, nor do you say, oh, I'm just going to have I'll be temperate in this.
Yeah.
You never say that with foods that are already helpful for you.
Right, exactly, right? Yeah. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. So I just, for a moment, want to get back to that story you said about the person that had a heart attack, but the vasculature did not show heart disease. That just blew my mind that can even be happening. And so what do we do about stress? Not nutritional stress. We know what the diet's supposed to be. Whole food, plant-based, no oil, and for some people probably little or no sugar and salt as well. But what do we do for the other stress? But I think when you eat well, you have less stress. I really believe that helps you not be as stressed. But of course, people have stresses in life, financial, interpersonal, things like that, their job. So what's Dr. Columbus Batiste recommendation for having as little stress as possible?
Well, I think that's a great question, and it's never going to be a one size fits all in terms of what's best for an individual. But what I can tell you is that what people think de-stresses them absolutely doesn't. So thinking that coming home and vegging out in front of the television is going to decrease your stress has never been shown. Thinking that we're going to go home and going to have a few drinks is going to decrease my stress, it does not.
No.
Thinking that I'm going to go and have that pint of ice cream does not. So what we know are the same things that our lifestyle promoting also can help with stress. So green exercise, getting outdoors and inside with just measured amounts of sunlight that can do tremendous amounts of benefit to your mental function. Being active as far as walking, engaging and being social, with people, talking with your friends, with your family. Those things are extremely important and has been shown to decrease your stress burden there completely. We also know that your rest plays a huge, tremendous role because when you don't get your sleep, right, which can be spurred on by stress, you're increasing your stress hormones, you're increasing the ghrelin and leptin, which make weight loss very challenging as well. And so there's a vicious cycle towards everything, that one begets the other, and it feeds itself constantly. So I recommend to patients this, is the fact that I believe it's like a seesaw. So my kids never had the opportunity to play on a seesaw, right? I don't even know if they make those anymore. But your stress, I can't take away your stress. Right? But the goal is can I increase the things that are bringing value to my life? Can I bring in laughter? Can I bring in some opportunity to embrace, to walk and to enjoy doing something? I talk to patients, I tell them the same thing. What did you do that was fun? Tell me one thing you did that made you laugh. Tell me one thing you did that was fun. Tell me one thing that you did that was just for you.
I've never had a doctor ask me anything like that. Gosh, I wish I could go to you.
It's important because, I tell them you need to be selfish in your journey to achieve your health. Unless you can become selfish in your journey towards achieving health and make it a priority and not making it the last thing on your list to do, right? But making it a priority in the things, it's going to better situate you to perform in other aspects of your life.
Yeah. Well, I want to show you something that I feel is really good for stress, and I heard it's also good for the cardiovascular system.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't these guys don't pets really help lower our blood pressure and really don't people that have them have less heart disease? Even if they eat poorly, because they're just so great.
Yes. No, absolutely. Animals are tremendous. And so, even like with our poor veterans who suffer with post-traumatic stress disorder, they actually have service dogs that specifically are in tune with their emotion, their body affect, in order to help them and decrease their stress. So animals are tremendous, specifically dogs and so forth. You know, we had dogs growing up always.
And you don't have one. When are you going to get a pet already? You know, because you have to tell your wife that it's good for the heart. And speaking of your wife and kids, are they eating healthfully?
They are moving. I'll tell you, I just had a conversation with my son yesterday. Right. And he was telling me about the fact that, you know, Daddy, I want to be even healthier. And so I think that I don't want to eat the food at school. Good. You know, I would rather go ahead and make the food because it's not always healthy. They have like cheese and have some other things that are there. And even though it's not meat or whatever else, he's like, you know, I want to eat healthy. And so I said, okay, Brian. I said, sure, great, we can do that. I said, let's go to the grocery store right now. I said, we can pick out some things that you like, and we'll pick out and we'll make your lunch, and we'll have things for your breakfast. So this morning, as we're heading out, he says to me, he says, Dave, what's a good breakfast? What should I have for breakfast? I said, okay. Well, I said, well, do you like the oatmeal? Yeah, okay, we can do oatmeal. So we'll do oatmeal. I'll make you a smoothie. We'll make you some whole grain toast and kind of go. So the kids are there. The kids are there. And I realize my approach for the kids, I'll be honest with you, is that I don't want to make it where they feel like if there's something they're missing out on. But I will not purchase things for them. And I tell them. So every movie that I recommend to patients, they've seen. Every book I listen to, they've had to listen to it when they're in the car with me. And what I notice is that in their conversations, they bring out these points to friends. And they'll tell me that, hey, I just don't like this anymore after, and I read about this, and I was telling them that they shouldn't eat this, this, and this. You know, so both my kids are actually, I'm very proud of at age 10 and 12. They're not old or grown, and so I still have some control over what they can and can't have. But I like their free will decision making. Their thought processes is what I'm encouraged by, and I think there's a tremendous hope for the future for them.
Wonderful. Well, it's been so awesome talking to you. You're so passionate. I have one last question, and it doesn't have to be somebody in the medical field. Who in your life has influenced you the most?
Oh gosh,
living or dead.
Besides my parents?
No, it could be your parents if that's who it is.
No, absolutely, it's my parents.
Right.
It's my parents beyond a shadow of a doubt. You know, I mean, my dad was extremely hardworking, and my mom still is to this day extremely self-sacrificing, and will do anything for her children. And she holds all of us at the same level in terms of that, and has that unconditional love. My dad, educated man, a scrapper, would do anything for us. You know, I never forget when I was in college, he even taught college, was probation officer, sold insurance, and to pick up extra money would go and paint curves on his knees to kind of get extra money to put me through school.
Wow.
And in his life, I'll tell you, it was two things. It was that really got me on this journey, were the fact of his life and seeing how his nutrition was, by world standards, everyone would say, oh, it's very good. But he was moderate. He would eat things moderately.
Yeah.
And have his snacks. Not so much tons of animal products, but would have the processed foods and the chips and things of that nature. And for him, that moderation killed. And it full circle towards the end of his life, and before I had really before I was into all of this and understanding, I read Esselstyn's book after his passing, and his chapter of moderation kills. And that full circle, my feeling has always been is the fact that, where I was not situated from an ignorant standpoint to be able to impact my father's life or my father-in-law's life. We lost both of them the same year.
Sorry about that.
I can impact every patient I see. So my motto is every patient, every time. And when someone asks me about what's going on, you can't share the fact that you have this awareness, that you have this great gift, and not be passionate about it. You can't sit there and look glum or not be excited by the fact that, you have an opportunity and approach individuals with love, And so that's been my motto, is that I don't want anyone to be turned off by the message. I don't want them to think that it's all or none. I don't want them to think that they can't do it. I want them to know that they can embrace health truly, right? You can embrace health Truly. And this is an investment. Every day it's an investment in your future by what you put into your body and what you do to de-stress.
Absolutely. Boy, if you weren't already a doctor, I would say you should be a motivational speaker, because you have inspired me today, because I've been doing this so long that I get jaded sometimes and feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. Why even bother? I say the same thing all the time, but just talking to you, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's an opportunity. So thank you so much for your passion and your compassion. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Healthy Living. I'm Chef AJ, and I make healthy taste delicious.